Anya Carter. New at noon, Mississippi is set to execute tonight a man convicted of raping and killing a college student. Charles Ray Crawford will be put to death tonight. He was convicted of abducting Christy Ray from her parents' home in Tippah County back on January 29, 1993.
On the evening of October 15, 2025, inside Mississippi's Parchman Penitentiary, Charles Ray Crawford took his final breath. After 31 years on death row, the 64-year-old was executed by lethal injection for one of the most brutal crimes in the state's history. At exactly 6:25 p.m., the warden gave the final signal. Through the glass window, witnesses watched as the clear solution entered Crawford's veins. He closed his eyes, whispered something no one could hear, and within minutes, he was gone. The story that led to this moment began more than 3 decades earlier, in a quiet Mississippi town where a college student's disappearance shattered the peace. Her name was Tiffany Miller. Bright, kind, just 20 years old. What happened to her that night would haunt an entire generation and define Crawford's life until its very end. From that single act of violence came a courtroom battle, a lifetime of appeals, and a final walk to the gurney that ended it all. It began on a cold morning in January 1993, in the small town of Tippah County, Mississippi. 20-year-old Tiffany Miller, a local college student, failed to show up for class. Her parents tried calling, but there was no answer. By nightfall, neighbors joined the search, and within hours, fear replaced hope. Sheriff's deputies found Tiffany's car abandoned near a dirt road outside town. Her belongings were scattered in the seat, and the driver's door was left open. Inside her family home, investigators discovered a handwritten note that read, "We have your daughter. Do not call the police." The message sent chills through the entire community. But it was the clues left behind. Muddy boot prints, tire tracks, and torn fibers that would soon point toward one man, Charles Ray Crawford, a 33-year-old mechanic with a violent past. When officers brought him in for questioning, Crawford gave a story that shifted with every word. He claimed blackout spells, then swore he remembered nothing at all. But when investigators found blood evidence in his truck and fibers matching Tiffany's clothing, the truth was impossible to hide. Days later, search teams discovered Tiffany's body deep in a wooded area just miles from Crawford's home. She had been sexually assaulted and stabbed to death, her life taken with staggering cruelty. The town that once slept peacefully now lived in fear. And Charles Ray Crawford was about to face the justice he had evaded for far too long. The courthouse in Ripley, Mississippi was overflowing the morning Charles Ray Crawford went on trial. Reporters crowded the hallway. Families clutched tissues. The air felt heavy, as if everyone knew this trial would decide more than one man's fate. When Crawford entered, shackles clinking softly against the floor, the room went silent. Across the aisle sat Tiffany Miller's parents, faces pale, eyes locked on the man who had taken their daughter. The prosecutor wasted no time. He laid out the evidence like puzzle pieces clicking into place: the ransom note, the tire tracks, the fibers, the blood in Crawford's truck. Every detail pulled the jurors deeper into the horror Tiffany had faced. Then came the photographs. The courtroom lights dimmed as the projector clicked, showing images no one could ever unsee. One juror covered her mouth. Another wiped his eyes. Even the judge looked away for a moment. Crawford's defense tried to portray him as a man lost in confusion, claiming mental lapses and a broken mind. But when he took the stand, his voice was calm, almost cold. "I don't remember what happened," he said. And that single line hung in the air like smoke. After just 2 hours of deliberation, the verdict came back: guilty of capital murder. When the judge pronounced the sentence, death by lethal injection, a quiet sob echoed from the front row. Justice had spoken, but peace still felt far away. After the verdict, Charles Ray Crawford was moved to a narrow cell inside Mississippi's death row unit. 8 feet long, one small window, and a steel door that never opened without chains. From that day forward, his world shrank to the hum of fluorescent lights and the steady ticking of time. Days blurred into years. Crawford spent most hours in silence, reading, pacing, and writing letters that were never answered. The same walls that confined him also protected him from the anger waiting beyond them. His lawyers kept fighting, appeal after appeal, claiming mental illness, unfair trial, constitutional errors. Each motion bought him months, sometimes years, but none changed the outcome. Every denial was a reminder that his story was only moving in one direction. Outside those walls, Tiffany Miller's family waited too. Each new hearing forced them to relive the horror. Her mother once said, "He gets to wake up every morning. My daughter doesn't." Time inside Unit 29 moved like molasses, slow but certain. Crawford grew older, his hair turned gray, his face thinner. Guards who once escorted him retired. Others took their place. Then, in 2025, the order finally came. After 31 years, the appeals were over. Crawford's name appeared on the execution list, and for the first time in 3 decades, the countdown had a date. The morning of October 15, 2025, began like any other inside Mississippi's Parchman Prison, except for one thing. Outside Cell 17, a small red tag hung on the door. It read, "Scheduled for execution." For Charles Ray Crawford, time had finally run out. At sunrise, officers escorted him from death row to a separate holding cell known as the Death Watch Room, a small gray box only a few steps from the execution chamber. From that moment, he was never left alone. He spent most of the day in silence. A chaplain visited briefly, offering to pray with him. Crawford nodded, said thank you, and closed his eyes. He didn't ask for a last meal. He didn't write any letters. He simply waited. As the clock neared 6 in the evening, witnesses began to arrive. Family members of Tiffany Miller, a few journalists, and state officials. They were led through a long corridor into a room separated by thick glass. The air felt colder there, heavier. At 6:10 p.m., guards entered Crawford's cell. He stood up without a word. They shackled his wrists, guided him toward the white-walled chamber, and helped him lie on the gurney. When asked for any final words, he said softly, "I'm sorry for what happened. I hope her family finds peace." At 6:25 p.m., the warden gave the signal. The needle pressed in, and after 31 years, the silence finally broke. Outside the gates of Parchman, the night was still. Reporters packed up their cameras, and the last echo of the crowd faded into the Mississippi dark. Inside, the gurney had been cleared, the lights dimmed, and a guard quietly marked a line through one final name: Charles Ray Crawford, executed. For Tiffany Miller's family, it wasn't celebration, just relief. Her mother said softly, "We've waited 31 years for this. It doesn't bring her back, but it ends the waiting." Her father held a small photograph, the same one he'd carried to every hearing since 1994. In Tippah County, some felt justice was finally done. Others wondered what true justice even means after so much time. Did this execution close a wound, or just remind everyone how deep it went? For the officers who'd guarded Crawford for decades, the day felt surreal. One said later, "You see him every morning for 30 years. Then one day, he's just gone." The story of Charles Ray Crawford ends here, but its weight remains. A young woman's life stolen, a community scarred, and a justice system that took 3 decades to finish what it started. And as the world moves on, one question lingers in the quiet that follows every final breath. Was justice truly served? Or was it simply another life claimed in its name? Do you believe justice was finally served that night? Or did the system just take another life in return? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to know what you think, and if you want to hear more real stories from death row, just stay tuned.